2, 3, testing. PTSD with how it got started was where people noticed so many Vietnam vets were having trouble. Not that World War II vets or Korean War vets didn't, but our understanding and mental health issues and our denial, in a sense, as a culture, we weren't, focusing on it. It was hush hush. People that had problems from war were, you didn't want to talk about it, and most vets didn't. It was difficult for them to find a venue to discuss their experiences. We got it going, and it was less than ideal conditions. This is, 1992, and for a lot of folks, they don't, there's been a whole transformation, and back then, conditions would be called archaic. And I'm not saying that to put like a black eye on the VA, I just know it was that way in community and private hospitals. There was just not a lot of resources and knowledge, I guess, and there was a stigma, of course, in our society, and there still is, but then, people that had mental health issues could be viewed as bad people. We were on the 10th floor of, it was a Gerald psychiatric unit where our program was actually housed. It was, we were in the back unit, and the Gerald psych guys, a lot of them were World War II, even older, and they had dementias and severe mental illnesses. And they were all older, and it was less than ideal, our setting. It just, we had to contend with some of these vets that, had chronic problems at the time, the Gerald psych vets. And what we had to do is help our guys to understand, what the situation we had, that this was it. This was our place. So we had to really be honest. This is what we got, guys. We got to make the best of it. And of course, the vets at that time, all of them were Vietnam vets. And there was a, growing knowledge at the time that they really had got the short end of the stick in terms of treatment and socially. And so they were suspicious, coming to the VA, talking about your problems. Am I gonna get arrested if I tell you everything that really happened in my life? Or, they were fearful. Even the private folks were inquiring about, treatment for PTSD, or hey, this Vietnam vet is having these kinds of problems. And there was this growing body of knowledge, like, hey, this guy has nightmares, he's anxious, he's struggling with his relationships. So as we got a ride, and more and more people learned about us, and we never had a problem getting anybody in there. Whatever prejudices you can have, or the stigma about somebody having problems, I came face to face with that, and it was really evident that people were suffering. It was an amazing thing that when you get somebody that comes in and they trust, and you put a group of vets together, combat vets in particular, that have been yearning, and missing out on some of the positive experiences of, what they went through, being together and bonding. And it could be almost magical to see it, where, the first couple days, everybody'd be looking around trying to figure out if they trust anybody, or who are you, and and then all of a sudden it would just happen, and they would get along, and we would work together. It is a diagnosis, and there's many symptoms that are associated with it. It depends on what particular issues the person's bringing to the table. But the one that was very obvious at the time, so a lot of the vets were in their 40s, early 40s when in '92, and you could see this sense of alienation, like they didn't feel like they fit in the planet and with their experiences. Socially, and they had anxieties, particularly one that's real big is a lot of vets, combat vets, don't like crowds. It's just overwhelming keeping track with their senses. Some they had conflicted relationships, and we're wondering, it's almost like when you're in your 40s, a lot of people have theorized you ran around the track enough where you begin to realize something's wrong. But a lot of people, they can't really fully articulate what it is. It's just like, I don't fit in. And they know that most have problems with anger, frustration, tolerance when things aren't going well. Anger is kind of, the permissible feeling when you're a vet or a combat vet. That's, you get a lot of shit done when you're pissed. And at the time, there was a lot of drugs and alcohol. For a lot of vets, they gravitate. Unfortunately, being in the service too, it can be a conditioned response. It's although I think in many ways the military might be cleaning that up, but people, it's permissible to drink. If you get promoted, if you get mad, if you something don't go good, or your boss is mean to you, you go out and get drunk, and and people want to feel good, and when you're not feeling good, when you got PTSD, it's a common thing. What made the change was one of the major changes was legislation. Where they eventually, the Congress started dumping money and more into mental health and the VA. And the one landmark bill was where they were supposed to, that the VA was supposed to separate the PTSD veterans from the general geriatric and mental health populations. So they were no longer, were supposed to be housed with, say, chronic schizophrenics or people with other kinds of mental illnesses. They were supposed to have their own exclusive treatment, say in a wing or whatever. So what happened then is that the major change was when that happened, there was more money that was earmarked. The VA takes a lot of bashing, but it does take people being vocal about the services not being right, and that's what did happen, where people listen up. There's lots of theories out there about PTSD, lots of treatments. What's worked, I think, for me, helping others, is just being more personable, putting it right on the table. What's going on. I do talk about trauma, but day-to-day living, what can you do today to make things better? How you feeling? What do you think you might be doing that's hurting you now? And people have misfortunes all the time, and it's part of life. And we're going to talk about those, bad things, and how can you cope with it, and what do you need to do to be more human with others? One of the best ways to cure PTSD is not to have wars, but that's unfortunately a lot of people are real big on that idea. That was a little political infomercial there. What's changed? Well, just our knowledge. we're out and about. We're more connected. There's more counselors. There's more compensation. There's money for vets that are disabled. Before, it used to be quite difficult to get it. You had to really jump through a hoop. So there's just become a change, and people are more sympathetic. They have more empathy. They're more human about everything.